to Serpent Temple Weekly Review Episode 2. This week we're going to be looking at 3 albums. The first one is going to be Converge's Jane Doe, released in 2001. The second one is going to be the Obscure Sphinx album Epitaphs, released in 2016. And the third will be by Froglord. The album is called Save the Frogs, released in 2021.
Is it Converge or Converge?
I think it depends on your mood, really.
I'll go for Converge. You can go first on Converge because I've got a lot I want to say about that album. It's going to be very rambly.
The main thing I feel about Converge is I think they should do a con called the Converge Con. Or Converge, like they should just do like some Convergicon.
Convergicon. That sounds good.
Convergicon! They can do like a Digimon crossover. It would be really interesting. I think they should totally do that. You're so unimpressed. I did introduce our man behind the camera, Shem Lucas, and this is my co-host Floyd.
Hello.
You all care about our names, I'm sure. So yeah, Jane Doe. I didn't come into this as a big Converge fan. I really like listening to albums that I'm not necessarily so clued up on about the band. I obviously know they're an incredibly important band, and that they basically were like instrumental in shaping the sound of their genre. And I watched a really interesting talk on YouTube that some people who are fans or aren't might like to watch. It's with Kurt Ballou, and it's at the University of Berkeley College of Music, California. And they have like an entire lecture about how they made the album. And it's really interesting. I'm sure you're going to have loads of cool stuff to say about that, because I feel like we all watched it before this episode. And they talk about writing the album and the way they constructed all the songs. And the thing I think I personally like the most as a lyricist is there's a huge, not huge, but there are minor differences between what's actually sung and what's written down in the lyrics. And it's supposed to reflect what the album is about, which is like the breakdown of a relationship. Yeah. Which I think is like, for a lot of people, a very relatable thing. This idea, this feeling of like a chaotic breakdown of communication, of like losing your sense of deep understanding with someone. I mean, there's a line in the album where he's talking about like killing his best friend, sitting down every night with his best friend and killing them. Yeah. And like I've written it down in my little notebook. But yeah, like I really love the way they've done how the lyrics throughout the whole album just have this sense of like mystery of like who is this woman, and at the end as well where he's talking about searching the streets with bedroom eyes, and he's like just dying to be saved, run on girl, run on, and you're like, is that Jane Doe or is that the next Jane Doe? Yeah. Is he warning girls about who he's become and what he's gone through, like the trauma he carries, which I think is something I've talked to a lot of people who feel the same, and as someone, I feel everyone's got that big breakup, like that great love that they lose, and they go through this mourning process of not knowing who you are after a relationship, and like trying to grasp onto what you've lost with the other person and where you begin and they end, and this idea of the phoenix as well, which is something that the album begins to end with. The last song is Jane Doe, and then you've got Phoenix Rising, and then
you got Phoenix in Flight.
That's
and
it.
You got Phoenix in Ashes.
That's it. Yeah.
Flames.
Phoenix
Flames.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Like the whole, like musically, I should talk about the music first before the lyrics. Really, musically, it's chaotic. It's like you described it as lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. It's like it's a really easy way of like describing that music. I'm not like an expert in the genre of like, it's hardcore, right?
It's really interesting because what's cool about Converge, and especially with the Jane Doe album, this is like a really early blueprint of metalcore, but kind of before metalcore became like really Gothenburg infused, and kind of very verse chorus. Like you had a slew of bands that were metalcore in the truest sense, that they were combining the kind of like the grit of the hardcore punk scene with like some of the more metal sensibilities. And that's what I love about Converge, because they're really good at kind of portraying that kind of raw punk attitude with just with the aggressiveness and the actual heavy distortion of metal. And it's funny because like the first time I bought Jane Doe, maybe like a year after it was released, about 2002, and it was too chaotic for me to begin with. Like it was just really fucking heavy, and I was like, this is just insane. And even the vocal delivery, and it's funny how you mentioned like the lyrics like being slightly different from what's being like sung, because like I use the term sung loosely, but like it's almost impossible to follow the lyrics when you're listening to the music, because it's just so fucking, he's just barking it like an absolute, it just sounds like a deranged dog.
You can tell he's in pain.
Yeah.
He's like having a breakdown. The way he's like phrasing everything is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just really cool, because like it's interesting to hear sort of metalcore in its infancy, because it really has changed so much over the years, because you had bands like Vision of Disorder, Botch, and Converge, who are like really early metalcore bands that were really more coming from the hardcore punk scene, and then it developed with like Killswitch into something which was just so much more sanitized, I would say. Verse, chorus, a lot of like Gothenburg in Flames, Soilwork inspired leads. And then now, like, I don't know if any of you have listened to metalcore these days, but it is...
I don't know what metalcore is.
Well, the thing is, it's always changed, and now it's evolved again. Okay. And it's funny, the funny thing about metalcore is, it starts off, it's just become progressively more sanitized. There's been like 3 stages. The first stage was where it was like with bands like Converge, just had more the hardcore sensibilities, and then it evolved into something that was more akin to, say, melodic death metal.
Okay.
But now it's become fused with like new metal and even pop punk.
No.
And there's like, yeah, I mean, you listen to bands like, I'm not even going to profess to be a big Architects fan, or I don't know much about their music.
So they come from, I thought Converge spawned like heavier bands than that.
No, they did too.
Like, is Carbon, are they a modern, like, are they related to I just love
I think the way Carbon have got similarities. Totally, they both have that, and I don't mean this in the derogatory term, but they've both got a very spastic approach to music.
Yeah.
There is a band called Spastic Inc.
Yeah, there is.
Well, they're really good, yeah.
But I think Carbon, sorry, that's some latent South African coming through there.
Carbon.
I really like Carbon. But they're coming from, I think, more of the Meshuggah school of music, where it's like, focused on slightly different polyrhythms, and like those sort of like, I abhor using the term gent, but like more genty sort of textures. Whereas like, you listen to like modern metalcore now, and like you listen to the verses, they sound like pop punk verses, like they honestly do.
I can't listen to that music because it reminds me of being a teenager and everyone at school listening to that music and not wanting to hear it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same kind of like, even the vocals, the way they're layered and how they're produced, it doesn't sound human anymore to me. It just sounds like a guy that I went to school with that did too much drugs.
Yeah.
No offense to any of those guys I went to school with, they're really lovely guys, but like, it just reminds me of teenagehood in a not nice way. Of like something you hear at a disco when no one wants to talk to each other and you're in the corner.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because it's sort of music that can, because like, I'm not being funny, but like, if you would show someone, say, an album by, let's take The Ghost Inside, a modern metalcore band, show them a song from them, and show them a Converge song, there is elements of modern music and even pop music that would be immediately accessible in the Ghost Inside music that people who aren't so involved in the metal or the heavy music realm would be able to get into. But it's like, I'm not being funny, but like, I was into heavy music before I listened to Converge, Jane Doe. Yeah. The first time I listened to it, I was just like, the fuck is this? I was like, this shit is just off the wall heavy. And like, to be honest, it's actually got even elements of grindcore in it. I find, which is like, there's just some of it is just so erratic, and some of the song lengths, like 1 minute 40 seconds, and it's just blistering riffs, and it's got elements of crust riffs in there. There's some rock and roll style riffs in there, which are really cool. I think it's really cool to hear a band. I think they were one of the first bands I heard anyway that took even like the blueprint of a standard rock riff and make it super, super hyper aggressive. Because before that, you could easily distinguish between, say, like a Slayer riff and, say, a Led Zeppelin riff. Whereas, like, Converge done a really good job of, like, just creating this melting pot of loads of different styles into one, like, super cohesive, aggressive album.
I love that. I can't believe it came out in 2001, because I didn't listen to Converge until this year. Because I came into metal through death metal.
Yeah.
And, like, more heavier stuff. And I always thought Converge sounded completely different. And so when I listened to them, I was like, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
And I never really delved properly into them. It's one of those bands I've been meaning to for a while.
Yeah.
Because I know they've got a whole body of work that needs to be fully explored to like hear everything in context, where I think you guys could easily do, whereas I'm just like, it's really fucking good. You know? And I'm really surprised that a heavy album like that has spawned much lighter, more accessible bands, because I feel like usually it's the other way around. You've got more accessible bands spawning weird fucking other bands that are inspired.
Yeah, it's. I think what that is just the general snowball effect you see in a lot of music anyway. Like, because for every band that listened to Converge and heard like the more aggressive, even death metal grindcore sensibilities that were in place, they would have took influence from that and went on to create something that was heavy. But for every other person would have listened to a song like, say, Phoenix in Flight, which is quite soaring and melodic.
That's a really good point, yeah.
And you listen to like a few of the tracks, like I think one of them is Heaven in Their Arms and The Broken Vow. They've got some, if you listen to it closely, there's some absolute like blueprint, like second wave metalcore riffs there. Like you listen to that and it's like, this sounds like sort of early Killswitch or early God Forbid, who are another great early metalcore band. And it's just really interesting to see the progression and how they have so many elements in one album. Yeah, it's just such a beast. I love it. I think it's a great album.
It's a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And like a point I want to pick up on, because you were talking about the lyrics and about it being a breakup.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I like in music is when a band or an album, the lyrical content or even the song titles are reflected in the music itself. Like there's actually a connection there. And I think, like what you're saying, a breakup is something that's quite a monumental moment in a lot of people's life, and a lot of people experience one big one that has a profound effect on them. And I would say a breakup elicits such an extreme response and gamut of emotions that say even something like a death wouldn't do. Because someone dies, you're just going to be depressed and mournful.
The closure's gone. You can't seek closure.
Yeah.
You know that. You can't control that. But with a relationship, oh my god, like people are obsessed with like reaching out and like what there is and the space between you and that person and how it's changing. Yeah. And
I suppose it's hard for it's interesting because like something's dead even though it's not physically dead.
Yeah.
But the thing with relationships, it's so much more of a wide range of emotions that they could elicit, like joy, even euphoria from something ending. Like you could feel such a wide sort of spectrum of emotions with one event, and I think that's why Jane Doe works from that lyrical perspective as well. Because I feel like as an album, it's really good at portraying those different emotions in a way that, because when people think of breakup songs or breakup albums, they'll think of something that's really overly sentimental or quite poppy. Whereas I think Jane Doe actually does a pretty good job of capturing the whole range of everything you kind of experience, like just the period of reflection. Like you hear a song like Phoenix, sort of Phoenix in Flight again. It's almost like he's come to terms with what's happening, and then it kind of just explodes again in Phoenix in Flames. And I think that's a really good contrast, those two songs, because you got Phoenix in Flight, which is just so soaring and melodic, and it's just really a beautiful song, and and the production changes so drastically in Phoenix in Flight. Like it sounds frankly horrible. Like the drums are way too loud, everything is just so fucking abrasive. But it's just great to show, like, even everybody knows the concept of phoenixes, they turn into flames and, they're reborn again. And I think that's kind of what happens in that segment of the album. Like, that's the flight, that's the rebirth, and then it starts again. Like what you said, like with what you were saying about Jane Doe, the final track, about him maybe on the look out for, something else from life after this breakup.
Yeah, like the idea of the phoenix and the repetition, and like it's like he knows from the beginning that his love is doomed, but it's also like he's doomed himself as well. Like he's like almost resigned himself to have this kind of love that's going to explode into flames and turn to ashes, and he knows that, and he's like still seeking it. Yeah. And you can still feel that catharsis at the end where he's like clearly in so much pain, but he's also seeking the next round. Like what's going to be like some horrifying but also beautiful and complex and chaotic and like tearing yourself open, but at the same time not necessarily completely being in control of that, or if he is, he's like half warning himself and other people against that part of his own psyche. The idea of like when he's talking about his partner having like her trauma being beautiful. When I read that line, I was like, there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to unpack it, but yeah, it's a really interesting. There's like a level of self-awareness, but also awareness of how little in control you can be when you're in love with someone, or when you want to be. Some people want to be in love with people, and like it makes you ask that question if he's going through that same thing.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, I love like the psychological aspect of an album too, and I like that this album also, like I think it was the first time they had the drummer.
Yeah, I think it was actually the first time they had Ben Koller, the drummer, and Nate Garrett, the bassist.
Yeah.
This was their first, because they had 3 albums previous to this, and this was the first album I had heard of them. And it's kind of only went back retroactively to check out their music quite a few years later. I think after their album after Jane Doe, You Fail Me came out, which is also a really, really good album for completely different reasons. So I kind of went retroactively back, but in a way, I think even the band themselves would probably admit that Jane Doe was the one that put them on the map, because it's, like you said, like we were talking about before this, it's that whole lightning in the bottle moment. It's kind of their Rain and Blood, which is a bit of a corny term, but like it really is that moment where, the catalyst for creating something which is, well, maybe not once in a lifetime, but it's something they'll never be able to recreate or recapture ever again.
Yeah, it's clear that moment they've captured is real, and that like it's that moment's never going to be the same again. And I think that's kind of why maybe I feel like myself and a lot of people can probably relate to that or find that particularly special, because it's very rare that no one's going to consistently experience that unless there's something horrendously wrong with their life.
Yeah.
In which case I think the music wouldn't be that good anyway. So yeah, it's a really interesting album. Yeah. What would you rate this album?
Tough one. I mean, this is literally, in my personal humble opinion, one of the most important albums in the history of heavy music.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think it makes sense why Berkeley wanted to do a piece on this, because I think it's not an album that's underrated, but I think its influence is often underrated.
It's a turning point for a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
And a lot of metalheads as well. Yeah.
And it's a rating. I mean, I would give it close to the highest rating I could possibly think of, maybe like a 9.5.
I'd give it a 9.
Or something.
Personally, I'd give it a 9. I think it's a super important album. I don't think I'd give many. I can't think of a single album I'd give a 10 that I don't personally just love.
Yeah, so maybe like Hate the Flame.
I'd give every Akakoka album I'd give a 10. That's pretty much it.
But it's and I think it's very cathartic to listen to.
It is.
And I think that's another thing that's really good about the album. You listen to that, and I think if you're someone who's pretty zen and chill, I don't think you're going to get much from the album. But if you're someone that is hurting or is experiencing some form of angst, you're going to listen to that, and that's going to really help you iron out some shit if you were open for it to do that.
It's a good breakup album. I think if I listened to that as someone going through a breakup, that would probably change my life. It would definitely help me heal. I mean, even now, like I have no romantic breakups going on, but I have like a friendship breakup going on, and that definitely, there were times listening to that, reading the lyrics, where I was like, that's fucking accurate.
Yeah.
Like killing your best friend every night, like knowing you're separating from a relationship that used to be really important in your life. So yeah, I think it's a really accurate album, and it's cool that that guys wrote this, and that these men are being vulnerable, and they're like doing it and showing that like their real angst, and they're not just trying to be like men about it. They're not they're not being aggressive, like physically. They're being like angry. I think there's like a difference. I don't think it's aggressive. I feel like there's pain.
Vulnerability there for sure as well, because if you look at their roots, like hardcore, like beat down hardcore, it's just like, I'm a tough motherfucker, just like and throwing slams and shit. Yeah. Even though, ironically enough, a lot of the lyrical content for the hardcore bands is actually really positive and quite life affirming.
I like that about hardcore, yeah.
Like even Hatebreed, take Hatebreed, like all the songs just like believe in yourself. But it's like it just sounds like total bro music. But it's but no, like I think you're right. Like the vulnerability of Jane Doe is just there, and the artists that created it is there on display. And I think it's what I really love about it is the artwork as well.
It's made by
Jacob Bannon, singer, yeah. So that's his actual piece as well, and it's just such an iconic sort of image, just the woman's face, and think even the concept of a Jane Doe, I think it's only when I researched it, when I first bought the album, I realised that the Jane Doe is the female counterpart to a John Doe.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah, so if you've got an unidentified male to John Doe.
I knew that already, but mainly because there's a latex company called Jane Doe Latex.
Oh, no way.
And she does like the best latex. And
cool.
I think she dated a guy in a band that's used, oh, for God's sake. Sorry, my brain completely gone. But they moved to LA and she does latex for Marilyn Manson, which is now problematic. But this is before, obviously, so... Yeah, but she's done it for like real awesome performers and stuff. She's really cool. Check her stuff out if you like shiny stuff.
Yeah, but don't check out Marilyn Manson stuff.
He's not cool. Don't check
no.
him out.
It's I saw. Remember, I freaked out. This girl once. She was walking down the street with a Jane Doe tote bag. It had like the image on it, and I just like, you know, sometimes when you're so excited, you forget that you're a human being. And you've got the potential to really scare someone. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, is that a gun with this tote bag? That's amazing. She's like completely jumped out of the skin. She's like, yeah, it is. But it's just so cool. And it's funny that his artwork and his art style, he's done a lot of albums for other groups as well. And I think he's got a really distinct art style. And I think it's just, it is funny how, like, we were talking about this a little bit with Wardruna last week, how like art and music go hand in hand. And I feel like it's not something that's curated often enough at gigs and stuff, and it's something I think I'd like to see more of, like what Roadburn do with their art installations, and what Wardruna and Gull did with their art installation that the Enslaved did, even though I didn't bother to check it out, but I'm sure it was good. But
yeah, that's a good point, I think. So Converge, like I feel like I should say more, but at the same time, what can you say about an album like that? It's so important. And like, I listened to Converge and I listened to the other albums afterwards, and I think that was a big mistake because it's really difficult to listen to. Like, I suggested the Epitaphs album by Obscure Sphinx, and that was the one I listened to straight afterwards. And I was looking at the lyrics, and I was like, they're really good lyrics, but they weren't Converge.
Yeah.
Or Converge. They were not like. I think it's very rare that you read a metal album with lyrics that are like so deep, unless it's like lingua ignota or something like that to me. Yeah. And then I'm reading these lyrics which are like cool, and I think it's also about like pain and to an extent loss too. But it was, and I think that could be a language barrier thing too, because let's not forget they're
Polish.
They're Polish, yeah. So like respect for writing a whole fucking album in your non-native language. That's really impressive.
I mean, if I wrote Polish lyrics, it'd probably be dog shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do what they've done. So serious respect for them. That's absolutely not a criticism. It just shows the difference between the genres and like how different albums sound. Because personally, I like the music of Obscure Sphinx more.
Yeah.
I love the energy of Converge, but I love like vocally and instrumentally, I fucking love Obscure Sphinx. So this is a good way of moving into the next album, which is Epitaphs, released in 2016. What did you think of it, Floyd?
Well, I was going to say it's a great album. I'm trying not to open it the same way with the Behemoth album. So basically, it was just like it's a good album. I like it. But no, it was great. I did actually really enjoy it. I'm very new to the band. Like literally, you guys introduced me to them last week, and we were just jamming a little bit afterwards. And I think it's what I love about it is, well, firstly, the vocalist is outstanding.
She's fucking brilliant.
Like, what a voice. Like, I really love hearing vocalists who happen to be female have a diverse range of vocals, because I feel like it's a bit of a middle finger and a bit of a fuck you to a lot of the elitist metalheads and people in the scene who are a bit like, oh, you know, they've either got to just be either in a symphonic metal band or they could be a token harsh vocalist. And she's like, fuck this, I'm doing harsh vocals. I'm fucking yelling, I'm singing, like the whole fucking gamut, and I think it's just really cool, and it's a great performance throughout the album. Definitely,
you can hear her experimenting with her voice at different points, and she sings in like all different parts of her register as well, and she like in the album before, her performance is a little bit less varied, but she's still experimenting. She's still like experimenting with dissonance and singing like in different keys to what the instruments are playing, and I find what she does really interesting. I remember listening to them, I think possibly just before or just after recording, like singing on what we recorded on my own band, Shem, Lowen. And like I remember listening to her, and she's almost singing Middle Eastern. Almost, it's the closest thing I've heard in Western music to a vocalist actually trying to do that. Like Dead Can Dance, I guess, as well. But she's not doing it to be all like, you know,
Like
Eastern
appropriate.
shit. She's not appropriating. She's legit just like trying to sound epic with her voice. And when I heard her doing that, it kind of really helped me find where I started doing it properly as well. It helped me find like the technique for doing it, even though she's not doing the same thing, which I found was cool. Like, thank you so much for helping me find that. That's like a point of inspiration. And yeah, like the way she intertwines her vocals with the instruments is really interesting. And we found out minutes before we started filming that it was released about 6 months after the wreck of, not the wreck of the SS Needle, Mariner. I know it's called Mariner, but I call it the wreck of the SS Needle because it's my favourite song on the album.
That's a great track, yeah.
It's such a good track. But that particular track reminds me of a lot of what happens on Epitaphs.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very similar, the way like Julie Christmas is singing. Not that they have like the same style, the same voice, but they have a similar kind of voice, because there's like, 18 different kinds of voice, apparently, in vocal theory.
Yeah.
So I think they have like the same, like whatever it's called, archetype of voice. And the way they sing at points is rather similar. I think they use similar scales and stuff, so it's hard not to compare it to Mariner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got some strong Cult of Luna vibes on certain parts of the album. Like some of the more posty, ambient passages sounded very Cult of Luna-esque. I've got like a bit of a breakdown of most of the tracks here.
Go for it.
Which I've kind of just, I'll run through quickly. Well, the first track, Nothing Left, is really good. It's got a real gargantuan sort of build-up.
Yeah, I love the guitar bass thing they're doing. It's like really bendy and dirty. Yeah.
And it just, when the groovy riff kicks in, it's just so cool. Like we were saying last week, like I was hearing elements of Meshuggah in it, and just the dirty words gent, and some even a genty tone to it. But it was just really good, and it was, and I was looking at the lyrics because he kind of inspired me to kind of delve a bit deeper into the lyrics, and they're very introspective, much in a similar way that sort of Jacob Bannon's is. Obviously, I think he's very much more coming at it from a very punk rock aesthetic, which is just like...
He's raw.
Yeah, it's very raw, and even the delivery, like it's not even, you can't even fucking make out what he's saying, he's just vocalising his pain. Whereas like here, it's obviously, it's a bit more sort of centred.
It's more controlled, it's more like looking inward and like observing, I think, yeah. And
one of the things I found was quite cool about the lyrics is she uses a lot of gory imagery to depict like the intrinsic emotional pain and turmoil she feels. I think it's quite cool, just that link between, you know, just using gory imagery and, you know, because it makes you think of physical pain, but in reality it's very hard in real life to differentiate between the two for most people.
Yeah.
And I think it's, in society, we're kind of, I think, conditioned to believe that they're very, very separate. You know, you've got your mental health treatments, you've got your physical health treatments.
Yeah.
And I still think a lot of modern medicine doesn't realise the connection between the two.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of what it reminded me of a little bit. But first track, Nothing Left, I thought was absolutely fantastic. Second track I thought was quite interesting because it's almost like a triptych. Like it's like 3 tracks in one. Like if I was just listening to the album and not paying attention to the track listing, I would have thought there would have been 3 songs on that track, which is, if that's an intentional thing or not, I don't know. But there's a really good part. I mean, the second track, Memories Have Fallen Down, it's called.
I love that track.
It's there's a part where she literally is yelling as if she's falling, and I think that was just really cool. And there's a bit more reverb and echo on the vocals, and I thought that was quite cool.
She has like a really, really controlled amount of distortion on her voice, which is like a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
She controls her voice so well, and you can tell that she's breathing really well the whole time. Like, it's just such an impressive vocal performance.
I think that's the interesting thing about doing harsh vocals is you've got to, well I find, for myself anyway, you've got to be quite controlled where you do it. Like, you can't be too over emotional because you're going to distort your voice to the point where you're going to fuck it up inevitably.
Yeah.
And so it's like you've got to actually be a bit calm and controlled and measured to get the distortion right, to make it sound more aggressive, which is a really ironic, you know, oxymoronical thing, really.
Even in non-harsh vocals, something I learned early on, like from my own teacher, my own vocal teacher, was like, if you're going to sound emotional, it's important not to actually be emotional, because if you're choking up and you're singing, you're going to sing from the wrong place all the time.
That's
so like a really important thing to do is to learn how to like act like you sound emotional. Because if you start tearing up, your throat like raises at the back, so you're more likely to sing in like a place that's dangerous for you, especially if you're doing harsh stuff as well.
Yeah.
Because you're going to completely rip your throat up doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the techniques you use is he says the glottal stoppage then, or...
So I'm not using a glottal stop, though I do sing using them because I'm not singing in English. It's like, I don't know what it's called. It's like a Middle Eastern, like, you know, how Middle Eastern people sound when they sing, when they do like the crazy ululations and stuff.
Yeah.
But you're also basically like creating a stop somewhere around here. So I don't do it. You can do it from here. Sometimes it's gonna sound like yodeling.
Yeah.
More than like Middle Eastern, and like you're not supposed to use your throat so much in that kind of singing anyway. So like you kind of do it from here, and you kind of use your abs, you use your diaphragm.
Diaphragmic, yeah.
You're not like, you've got to do the right amount of pressure. It's like really difficult to describe. You've just got to play around and find it.
So that sort of the diaphragmic or phragmatic, how you pronounce it, breathing is I think one of the things I think every singer realises is probably the most important aspect.
Some people don't believe in it. The main thing is to breathe from your stomach.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, is to breathe from your stomach, have good posture, and be able to like tense the right places and like have the support. The most important thing is vocal, is like breath support. Otherwise you're going to have problems with pitch.
Yeah.
And like, you know, where you're singing from and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, either way, going back to Obscure Sphinx, she does a fucking fantastic
Yeah,
job
sorry, I got right early for a second.
of like just
fucking
being
amazing.
able to fucking control her voice and just do amazing things with it. So the third track is a tricky one to pronounce. It's,
Ni Probota?
oh, it's very good. That sounded right.
I hope so, sorry if it's not.
And it's the Polish word for incorrectness.
Well, if it is incorrect, I just exemplified the word incorrectly. So,
Yeah.
meta.
It's that was a good track. It's a lot faster pace, which was good. A lot of their more faster paced sections using a lot of sort of melodies, kind of post rock, post metal style melodies. It really reminds me of Mono.
Oh yeah.
And I really love Mono, a Japanese band that just absolutely fantastic. And live, talked about Warning bringing grown men to tears. Like I think Mono is equally good at bringing people to tears just out of sheer euphoria. Because just the music is just that damn good.
I had a dream about Mono last night. That's so weird. That you
Really?
brought it up. Yeah.
Oh,
Super random. Sorry.
that's interesting. Do you know what? I just want to say, hey, do you know how to get your phone to stop looking at its fucking screen?
Yeah, you got to go in settings.
I don't know how to do it. I'm just like there trying to like fiddle with it in a way where it's obvious.
I changed mine to never go off because it annoys me so much.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to sort that shit out. But yeah, it's a good track, and it's there's a great sort of like palm muted riff that goes right in after the melodic section, and I think this band does that really well. I really like the kind of chuggy, groovy
They've got
parts.
some good groove. That's what I like about them so
Yeah.
much. The groove is good.
I just felt there's not enough bands in that sort of niche pocket of metal that does a lot of groove, if that makes sense. I feel like Cult Luna do, and there's a lot of groove on Mariner as well.
Yeah.
Which is I think why it was such a successful album.
Totally.
But oftentimes, a lot of post metal is so meandering, it takes ages to get to a point.
This is so concise in comparison, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's, I thought, do you have any opinions of that track at all?
Honestly, I just love all the tracks. I'm
Yeah.
not very good at, like, I didn't do a breakdown of this album. I just remember I've listened to it a fair amount, and like, when I listen to an album or a band, I usually don't look at the tracks, but something we've started doing with this weekly review is that we are trying to do that. I didn't have time, I'm so sorry. But yeah, mainly, I just like, I like it. That's my take.
It's weird because I want to do a track breakdown of this album, 'cause it's something I wasn't familiar with. So whereas I feel like Jane Doe is something that's kind of ingrained in my consciousness a bit. So that's an album I'm very familiar with. Whereas so I know if I tried to talk about this just off the top of my head, I'd be like, I can't remember a fucking thing. But it was, the next track I thought was really good. Probably my favourite track on the album. It's called Memorare. Memorare, have you pronounced it?
I'm not sure, probably
But
Ferrari.
the lyrics is, it's the Western translation of the prayer for eternal rest.
I did not know that!
Yeah.
So it will be Memorare.
Yeah.
It's going to be Latin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's, it's just directly taken from the Western translation for that prayer.
That's so cool.
And it works really well because it's a really doomy track. It's really sombre, and it's actually the same riff throughout the entire song. But basically, what happens is it starts off like very almost like early Catatonia style, like similar guitar tone, and then it transitions into the same riff, but like in a palm muted groovy way again, and it does a really good job. And we're just using and layering on the same bit of music, and I just love when bands do that, because you listen to a subgenre like say technical death metal, and you've got like 2 million riffs in one track and everything's all over the place, which is great. Even Converge have got a lot of shit going on in one song, but I really also, on the flip side, really like it when the band is able to take one idea, one simple riff, and make that work and make it more dynamic, or as dynamic as a track, like say fucking Necrophagist or something. Phagist, sorry.
Necrophagist. Careful what you say there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Dope Smoker there, but Necrophagist works too.
Yeah, but that's another great example.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to Sleep, and it's funny because when it comes to like this particular subgenre, whether you want to call it doom, sludge, stoner, or post metal, I've got to be in the right frame of mind really to appreciate it.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling like super fucking down and miserable, I'd rather listen to something more akin to funeral doom, whether it be Bell Witch or even something acoustic. Whereas if I'm like sort of hyper aggressive, then I'd want to listen to something a bit more fast paced and higher tempo. Whereas like I think this is the sort of music I enjoy when I'm kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a decent mood. Like not too good, not too bad, but I'm just kind of chill, a little bit chill and a little bit zen, but it's good at kind of keeping you at an even keel, a level playing field. I think that's when I appreciate this sort of music the most.
It's stable. I feel like
Yeah.
it's stable. Yeah.
It's a very stable album. I think it's very well put together. I think it doesn't run the risk of being contrived, which is often if music is too overly constructed, you could tell there's a lot of process into thinking how the song is constructed, which most music is, but like it's done so in a way where it's still organic and it's emotional, and I think you're able to connect to the music quite easily still. I think largely due to the vocal performance, like the track The Memorares is like probably got some of the most beautiful, clean singing passages on it, and I think that it's a really good choice to switch it up and adopt those styles of vocals for that particular track.
Yeah, definitely. I like the cover as well, with like it's like a statue and it's got like I think it might be a mixed media collage or something. It's got like streams of black.
Yeah, it's like some dude with spaghetti.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a mourning album, not just for like maybe the loss of a family member or death. I don't know. I'd love to know what was going through the head of the singer. Speaking of which, the reason we haven't named the singer is because we don't know what the singer's called. We went on Encyclopedia Metallum, and they're referred to as the Reverend. They all have nicknames. Apparently she blesses people when she's like performing.
She's got a really cool. I love her stage makeup that she uses. You've seen it with like the black with the tears streaming down. It looks really cool.
Yeah, she looks great.
And it's just great when a band adopts visuals into their sort of stage performance. And like obviously everybody knows you got fucking 2 million second wave black metal bands that all look the same. They all look like fucking depressed pandas. But it's great when you see something a bit different and the band is actually putting some thought into how they present themselves on stage. Like, it doesn't actually always have to be an aesthetic thing, but even just the way they move about on stage and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And by all accounts, like I think this band here would fit in so well at Damnation.
Oh my god,
this is a Damnation band through and through.
100%. Like a lot of people who go there are massive Cult of Luna fans as well, and like anyone who likes Cult of Luna probably would love this album for sure. Yeah. Speaking of Corpse Paint, I think one of the best UK bands that does it is a band called Chubby Thunderous Bad Kush Masters. Have you heard of them?
No, I've never heard of them.
So they're great. What they
Chubby
do,
Thunderous
Bad Kush Masters.
Bad Kush Masters.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the video if we remember. But basically, what they do is they do corpse paint, but they wear tie dye.
Ah.
And their shirts are like tie dye, but with like a black metal logo and everything. And
that's
they just
cool.
they sound good. They're like really heavy, like distorted vocals. They've played like Desert Fest, I think, and they do like occasional London shows. They did occasional London shows. But yeah, check them out if you like some good underground UK music.
Kind of sounds a bit like the black metal equivalent to Party Cannon.
Perhaps I've never actually listened to Party Cannon.
If you like really dumb, aggressive, slam, brutal death metal, then they are the shit. And it's just amusing to see, when you used to see the older death metal festival lineups, They have all these fucking unreadable logos and they're just party cannon, like childish bubble letters.
I've seen that on the was it Maryland Death Fest? I think they were on there.
Yeah, I think it must,
yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Yeah, that's cool, man. I do love it. I love the humour of metal. I think it's okay to have like a few joke bands in there. Why not? And they're not really a joke band; they're a legit band too.
Oh, why not, man? As long as they're not shit like Steel Panther. I mean, fuck it, I'll just call them out. I think Steel Panther are dog
They're
shit.
fucking
Like,
stupid. No.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure they're lovely people, but can you fucking not? Anyway, so what would you rate Epitaph?
See, I'm starting to, since we started doing this, I'm starting to just revise everything that I consider about rating albums, because I'm just like, I just overthink shit, and I'm just like, fuck, it's just what would I actually rate
I have
this?
like 3 different versions of a rating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, on initial thoughts, I'd give it a solid 8. And if I had one criticism, I would say, I was saying this to you guys the other day, I think sometimes the post sort of metal and some of the more ambient sections can be a bit too meandering at times. And that's not even a knock on the band or the album itself, that's just me personally.
That's
there's
your taste.
not often when I listen to music where a passage that an acoustic or a melodic passage, if there's no variation and it's repetitive for longer than a minute or a half, I'm just too stupid for that shit. It just doesn't catch my attention. I'm just like, I want to hear something else now, and that's just me.
I can be like that with my own music. I don't like listening to I don't know. I like listening to. I mean, just edit this bit out because I sound like a wanker. So I can be really fussy about long drawn out sections. I think with some bands it really works, but with most bands it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep do it well.
They do it well. They're good at doing like tiny little variations, and because part of their sound is like supposed to be like the richness, the tone, all the layers, and like even if you're not like into drugs or anything, if you watch them, especially live, oh my god, you just get sucked into this world of like vibrations, man, and like the gear that they use as well is just it's so beautiful. Al Cisneros' bass tone live made my throat vibrate at the back of the HMV Forum, I think it was. Like, my whole throat was just like, it's crazy.
Is that how you learn your vocal techniques?
It might be. It could well be. Sorry, Obscure Sphinx, it was Al Cisneros all along.
It's they're just a vibe, though. It's a vibe band, and that's what it's about. You get some music that's just a complete and utter fucking chill and get high and vibe to them. And for the record, you don't need to get high to appreciate sleep. Even though when I saw them at Roadburn, and everything was blazing up in the building, so I was definitely fucking high, like from a contact high. But it was, man, but once again, for me personally, that's something I have to be in the mood for. Totally. It's not every day I could bang on Dope Smoker or Holy Mountain and just completely veg out. But
I feel like I would do it better, personally.
I need to listen to more of them.
Oh, maybe we should do an eye review.
Yeah, so I'm looking to discover some shit.
I get real nerdy if we did an own review. I am obsessed with Al Cisneros. He's one of the musicians that made me decide to actually do music things, because I've never talked to him. I've stood in a room with him and like nodded at him, and I was like, it was probably one of the few moments I've had I'm not worthy kind of experience with a musician, and just the level of detail he goes into with his music and his lyrics and everything he does is just mad, and he's just such a strange figure. He's so mysterious. Yeah.
Well, I thought we should do that then. Totally. So I feel like the film of this week is I've got such a strong relationship and connection to Jane Doe. So I've been listening to it for fucking close to almost 20 years now. Do you know what I mean? But like, it'd be good to do an album that resonates quite a lot with you.
Obscure Sphinx is probably that album for me this week.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I think for me, Advatic Songs, or Adviatic, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, is probably the most important. Like, kind of Al Cisneros involved album. I think a lot of people would expect me to say Sleep, but I think State of Non-Return is my favourite song ever that's like not classical music.
Oh shit, that's just legit favourite song ever.
I think so. Like the first time, even now when I hear that song, it has like an effect on me. Like there's something so incredible about the way the bass just like kind of rolls, and there's this heaviness with the drums, like syncopated drums and bass, and this like crashing sense of heaviness, and there's no guitar. It's just so fucking heavy. It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's no guitar at all. Is it just bass, drums, vocals? Oh.
Yeah, Ohm is drum kit, Alcestis on bass, and then there's a guy called Lycans, who's an independent artist who joins them live, and he has this table which is covered in like weird modded instruments and pedals, and he has like he has. So I don't know if you probably not listened to it, but at the beginning of Advaitic songs, there's like singing, and you think it's a woman. It's Lycans.
Oh shit.
And he has the most incredible falsetto I've ever fucking heard on a man or a woman. Like he legit can sing soprano better than a lot of people. It's insane. He does it live. He does it flawlessly live. When I saw it, my mouth was hanging open because he's incredible. He's a really impressive musician.
I would absolutely love to be able to do falsettos properly. Just I can't even say the word properly. So don't open me doing falsettos. But no, it's just every time I hear like I'm a massive Judas Priest fan, and I just love Rob Halford's voice, and I just think some of his vocal work he put down was just unreal and untouched even to this day. But that sounds really, really intriguing. Like I'd definitely love to check it out.
The lyrics are deep as fuck as well. Like he's obsessed with mysticism and Gnosticism and all the isms and like religions and everything. So it's really fascinating to delve in. But that's like not what we're talking about today. So
I mentioned bass, and I'll segue back into one thing I want to also mention about Obscure Sphinx was I really appreciate it in a band when the rhythm sections, so when the bass and the drums are not overplaying and overperforming. I like the drums to be quite in the pocket and quite tight. I think that's one thing I really liked about this album. It's really, I think it speaks volumes to a band and the rhythm section when they're able to understand that not necessarily have to blend into the music, but they've got to accentuate other parts of the music, whether it be the guitars or the overall structure of the song. And I feel like it's always a bit distracting for me if I hear a bass that's been overplayed or drum fills. And I'm going to use this example again, and people will be sick to death of me talking about this fucking album. But like Hathia Flame, like Alvenifrus, like the drums on that album is like the one detractor for a lot of people because they're so jarring.
It's so good.
But I love them. But that's like the exact opposite of what you get in this album. It's very much, the drummer is in the groove, he's in the pocket, he knows what he's doing. He's technical, he's got his little flourishes here and there, which makes sense. And I just appreciate that because it just makes it sound so much more cohesive and it doesn't detract from the overall presentation of the music and the record.
That reminds me of the Kurt Ballou lecture interview thing with Converge, because he says when they were writing the album that they were focusing on only having one instrument be the voice at a time, whether it's the voice or the bass or the guitar. And this is something that we learned when we were writing as well, is that like it can interfere if like one person or one writer is trying, it like writes in a particular way where like a particular part of what you're trying to weave together is always at the forefront. You need to have a balance and stuff passing things to each other, and that was something I really respected. Like I really liked hearing that confirmed this idea, and this is what you're saying too, is like the bass and the drums aren't trying to be the voice all the time. They're not trying to push their way forward to be heard.
But by the same merit, they should be heard at certain points.
They should be heard,
like,
absolutely, yeah.
The bass riff, the opening riff on Hell to Pay and Jane Doe is fucking insane. Like it's such a groovy bass line, like it's so good, and Ben Collar, the drummer, now that dude's all over the fucking place. I mean, the drums on that album, it's like he's definitely on the verge of just, there's that John Bonham just wildness, but while still being cohesive enough that he's still playing to the song structure.
You might say he's on the Converge.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
But what about you in terms of rating the Obscure Sphinx album?
It's a tough one. I mean, it's better than The Satanist. I was just like, oh. I just said that to I don't know, to see you do that face. I think it's probably an 8 for me. I think because it was like a turning point for me vocally. It's an important album for my development personally as a musician, so I'd give it a good score. Yeah.
No, I think that's pretty fair. I think we seem to be on the same page with that album anyway.
I'm surprised.
Definitely going to listen to their other albums as well, because I haven't checked out any of their other material.
I think it's their best album. I think their previous album it's such a development.
Really?
I think their previous album was 2011, so it's a big gap.
Yeah, that's quite, a 5-year
and
jump.
like you can hear her progression as a vocalist, and like the most recent thing is only a live album. It's a live album. I think it's called Formatage. Am I correct?
Formatage.
Yeah.
Formatage.
Void Mother came out in 2013.
Oh, 2013,
3 years
my bad. 3 years is a long time, I think, for a
It
band.
is, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think it's the right time as well. I think sometimes people feel too much pressure to just release something every year, you know. But it depends who you are and what you play. I think with that kind of music, this kind of like progressive, complex weaving music with all these emotional kind of like things that you're trying to do, I think it made sense for them. I'm glad that they're taking their time. So please continue taking your time, but do release an album of Obscure Sphinx, please. I beg of you.
Do you know, that's why that's a good point about the whole sort of duration between albums. That's why I give so much mad fucking props to Carcass, because to come back after all those years with Surgical Steel, it's just crazy, man. What a good album.
Such a good album. It's like they've been playing for years, right?
Yeah.
And they're so tight live.
Right. Do you know what would be sick if we, I mean, this would be a long video, but imagine if we'd done a discography review, like run through of a band. Like, I would totally be game to do that for Carcass, because I just
need
love
like
that
a
band.
month to prepare.
yeah. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the lyrics on the earlier albums. It's
You
just
know,
funny.
when I was at uni, we had to like bring a poem in and read it to the entire lecture theatre of like 300 students, and I brought in doctoral expletives. I read it to the entire, and I related it to Shakespeare, because it was for a Shakespeare module, because they made Shakespeare references.
Sick.
That was what my lecturers were like, what the fuck is this person doing?
Fucking hell, that's amazing.
It was great, yeah.
Alright, so should we move on to the third and final?
Froglord. Froglord. This was a Floyd suggestion, because Floyd loves frogs.
I think it's safe to say we both love frogs, but
They're amazing animals.
I've actually been collecting plush frogs since before I could remember, and I had something close to about 200 of them, and they're all sitting in the attic at the moment. There are some. I'll have to take pictures of some of them. Some of them are so cute.
You can bring one and put it on the shelf.
Oh, I should totally do
Yeah.
that.
We should have a frog on the shelf.
That'd be amazing. And I actually want to tell a story. I don't think I've told the story, but I told you the story about the little plush frog
Maybe.
that I lost.
I want to hear it again, even if I
It's a
know
good
it.
story. It's really sad. It should totally be made into a Disney film.
Pixar are going to do it.
Starring Gina Carano. No, I mean, no, sorry. But no, it's basically when I was young, Mum picked up this really cute, it was like a little plush tree frog. And so I always named my frogs as everybody names their plushies. And I called him Lloyd, because, you know, I'm a creative fucking genius. I said, just take my name and take the F off. So his name was Lloyd, and he was my favourite frog. And my mum even knitted him like a little nappy for him to wear.
Oh.
Like a little hat and stuff, so he had his own apparel and clothes.
I put a nappy on my city doll when I was a kid.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to put loads of plasters on him.
It was just, so when I was about maybe 5, 6, I had a really, really bad middle ear infection.
Oh,
and I was like
no.
crazy ill for ages.
Yeah.
And they thought I was going to need what's called grommets, which I think is some child version of hearing aids. I mean, I barely remember it because I was young at the time. But eventually I miraculously recovered and I was fine. And because it was such a horrific month, my mum says, I'll take you to Legoland. So we went to Legoland and I had Lloyd with me. I was like, I'll take Lloyd with me. And I was so excited about going to Legoland, and we were on the train to Windsor, and I must have left him on the train, didn't I?
Oh no!
And it was, and I just it was so bad, because even though I was a young child, I was thinking, I don't want to show my mum how devastated I am that I've lost this plush frog.
Oh no!
So I want to let her know that I'm having a good time at Legoland, but I was like so sad that we got the train back, and we went to, the first time I went to KFC, it was the KFC in Trafalgar Square, not Trafalgar Square, sorry, Leicester Square. Not far from where the Trocadero was, rest in peace Trocadero, and I was just there sitting, and I think it was just because the excitement of Legoland has subsided, so I was just there, I just started sort of quietly crying to myself while eating my fried chicken. My mum just turns around, she gets a thick Scottish accent, she's like, oh for fuck's sake, you're not so fucking upset over that frog, are you? And I was just like, no, I am, and I cried that night. And unbeknownst to me, my mum actually, I think, I cannot remember which train station it was, might be Marylebone, might be Liverpool Street, to get to Windsor. But my mum would call up every day and have an awkward conversation with the people working in the Lost and Found, saying, you haven't found a plush frog with a nappy on, have you, by any chance? Like no. So yes, that's the story of how I lost my frog. So anyway, Froglord. I like frogs. Frogs are great. They're very cute.
That is so sad. Step aside.
It's fine. I'm over it.
You should write an album about this.
yeah. The DSBM album.
Do a split with Froglords.
Yeah.
Probably be
That'd
up
be
for
cool.
it. Yeah.
A freeway split. You've got Goblin. No, what's Goblin Smoke?
Goblin Smoker.
Goblin Smoker, Froglord, and my depressed black metal project about
Would
losing
you
plush
call
frogs.
it Lloyd?
the rest in peace, Lloyd. Lloyd's
yeah.
epitaph.
It's Epitaph. Frogdo? I don't know. I don't know at the end. Yeah, so this came out in 2021, which is this year, weirdly. It's not next year anymore. 50% of the proceeds of this album is going to a charity called Save the Frogs, hence the album being called Save the Frogs. And it's fucking good. I listened to the full length they released in 2020, which was called
Amphibian Ascendant.
That's it, Amphibian Ascending. And it was like, I listened to that first, so I kind of had a very I had medium, normal expectations. I was like, this band's just going to sound like kind of a sludgy, stonery band, which is kind of how the full length sounds. But then I put Froglord on, Save the Frogs by Froglord on, and it's way better. I think in the months between these albums, something has happened to the Froglord, and they've just gotten much better. I just prefer, there's more groove, there's more variation, there's just more going on, and it's catchy and it's nice, and it feels kind of feels weirdly pure. I don't know if you got this kind of he genuinely loves frogs to the extent that people have clearly accused him, the Froglord. He's just a dude with a frog head. Literally his promo picture is him on a rock in a frog pose with a frog head in a shirt and jeans. It's really
pretty fucking cool.
It's legit not cringy, and I don't know why. But it's good. And so he's obviously been accused of this, and he's put up a post being for those of you saying that this is a gimmick, it's not. Here's a picture of me in 2011 with the Save the Frogs table, and he's fundraising for Save the Frogs at his college. It's just a kid, and he's got his frog Photoshop frog head. And he's I really love frogs,
That's
guys.
adorable.
It's just so sweet.
Yeah.
It's so nice that it's music and it's for a cause, and he's so passionate about something that it's impossible to be depraved about. You just know this guy's a Nazi. He's not doing anything bad to the frogs, you know. Are you okay?
Like those YouTube videos of monkeys.
No! It's a gorilla.
Oh,
That's so sad.
I showed you that YouTube video of the guy that made a hip hop beat out of monkey screams. I need to show you this afterwards. It's amazing. It's actually really good.
That sounds legit good. I mean, so it's a one-man project, which is impressive in itself, because when I listened to the drums on the first track, I was like, these drums are really good. They sound kind of bold.
Yeah, they're quite full, rich sound, the drums.
Yeah, it's groovy, the tone on the guitars is really nice. There's Kaiosy moments, there's kind of almost death metal-y moments, there's the vocals are clearer. I think this guy maybe discovered, he upgraded his skills perhaps in production or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think from what I've gathered, reading his response in their biggest sort of YouTube music video that he released, I think he was just saying, this was just a side project I was just doing for a bit of fun, but it's just kind of become his main musical output now. So maybe he realised that from going between Amphibian Ascending to the Save the Frogs EP, or maybe this is something I might maybe should put a bit more time and effort in. And I think it probably shows. It definitely, in my opinion, it shows in the EP. And I think, in my opinion, the little EP was kind of hitting its stride with the fourth track, which is about the great crocodile. And he even employs a bit like a Mongolian throat singing.
Oh, the throat singing's sick.
Yeah, and it sounds really fucking sick.
And there's there's samples of David Attenborough from I think the Extinction documentary.
Oh, no way. Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think that's the second or third track. I was that's a legit wholesome moment. And he's talking about the importance of saving frogs. Apparently they're particularly fucked. More so than a lot of species, because there's the insect apocalypse. It's legit called the insect apocalypse. So a lot of food for frogs is disappearing, and their habitats are disappearing too. So it sucks to be a frog right now.
Yeah.
And tree frogs are so cute.
They are, and I had no idea. I had a little look on the Save the Frogs charity page, and I had no idea just the impact.
Yeah.
The legitimacy behind the charity, how much it impacts the sort of what's being done to this planet is having on the frog, and in turn what the population of the frog, that impact has on just the overall well-being of certain ecological systems and habitats.
They're so fragile. A single animal that you wouldn't even think about going just disappearing can completely fuck the system.
Yeah.
They're so complicated. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna try and get some Save the Frogs merch at some point.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. No, I dig it. I think this is legit a really cool album. I wrote something else I was going to say. So this is a band with an unfortunate name, but this particular album reminds me of a band that I absolutely love. I literally have them on vinyl. They're called Goblin Cock. They're really good. I shit you not, they're great. They're like so groovy. I discovered them in like 2003 or 2005. They're just so their music videos are so good.
The album cover rules.
The album cover is a goblin sitting on a throne.
Huge piss dick.
The camera finished it for me.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's funny. I think it works. I think you could be the finisher of sentences that end in like huge piss dick. It's like that.
I was trying to have to save you.
I've never listened to Goblin Cock.
We'll play some later.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really groovy and like I don't know why. Apparently they're not produced very well, but I love the production. It's just really like simple, and their music videos are legitimately hilarious.
Yeah.
If you're bored on YouTube, which I think a lot of people are right now, instead of watching a video about how coronavirus is fake, maybe you go and watch a Goblin Cock video. It's probably more entertaining as well, and you're not going to accidentally kill your arm. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, a great EP, I think. Like, you know, going back to what I was saying when we were talking about Obscure Sphinx, you know, I've got to be in the mood to appreciate kind of a lot of sludge metal. Like, it's lots of certain moods, it just completely goes over me and I just can't get into it. But like, I listened to this EP a few times during different parts of the day, and yeah, I dig it. I think it's cool. I think I love the groove. I just like groove. It's that simple. If you give me a groovy riff and you know and a bit of a vibe, then I'm happy. Really, to be honest, and that's what this album does. It's just simple as that, really.
It's simple. It's good. It's like a frog. It's green. It sounds green. It's like kind of slimy. It's a little bit diaphanous. Like you can tell if you pick it up and your hands have acid on them, it's going to hurt the skin of this album.
Yeah.
Like it's a very sweet album with large eyes. But yeah, it also reminds me of Weed Eater, and at times the intros are very Kayasi.
Yeah.
Very warm guitars, but then you've also got some like darker, colder bits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because obviously you two definitely are more well versed in sort of the doom stoner / sludge. It's weird, isn't it? Because everything always gets. I feel like labels in this scene are very redundant because
I just don't know what any genre is anymore.
No,
it's all lost meaning to me. If it's like if it's death metal, I'm like I can understand death metal, but like post rock, post core, post everything, I don't understand what post anything is. I kind of get what post metal is.
Yeah.
Anything core, don't understand, don't know. I think I know what hardcore is. I think. Yeah. I'm not sure. If I can see them, I know they're hardcore because they've got muscles.
Yeah.
If they're kind of chubby and they look like they smoke weed, they're probably stoner or doom.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair assumption. But it's I just wanted to just mention again just about the Mongolian throat singing part, because I feel like it's just so cool because it actually sounds like a fucking frog.
Yeah,
I thought that's just what is so, and I'm just like, man, what a great idea. And I feel like, you know, shout out to the Who for making, you know, throat singing and Mongolian traditional music sort of acceptable. And it's funny, isn't it? Because really, if you look at bands like Wardruna, Highlung, the Who, they're not metal bands in theory, but they are bands that are accepted by the scene because, you know, they're bringing something fresh. And I think it does show that for every, you know, elitist metalhead that is, you know, super strict about, you know, genre labels and categorizing everything, you've got people that are just like music for being good music, you know.
Yeah, it's a really interesting debate because I kind of stopped caring about genres for a long time, and that's kind of why I just don't know what anything is anymore. But I remember I saw like a debate on Facebook where most people debate these days about how genres, like genre labels, can be important, especially if you're like an editor or if you're doing editorial work or if you want to help people find particular kinds of music. So I don't know, I think I should probably like clue myself up a bit more. I don't think it's important if you're obsessed with classification to the extent you're like, I won't listen to anything that's X or anything that's Y, I think that's a bit silly.
Yeah,
I think it can help, and I think it can hinder.
I think it's an interesting topic because I think it can actually be quite overwhelming for a lot of people trying to get into the scene.
Definitely,
which is why I think you get some people that pick with a subgenre and just stick with that. Just think, fuck, it's just so much to explore. You know, I mean, there's about 2 million black metal and death metal albums alone. So, like, by the time you've even covered even the popular bands in those two subgenres, you've got about another 30 bands in the doom subgenre, like about another 50 bands in the thrash subgenre. So it's like, and I think This classification is a weird one. But I think, at the end of the day, just good music is good music.
Right.
Really?
I mean, a lot of people will often ask, well, some people ask, like, what kind of metalhead are you? And,
Yeah.
like, usually I just say Doom because it's easier.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't want to, like, I don't even know how to unpack what I would listen to. Because it always changes, right?
Yeah, and I think it's just about balance, really, because I feel like, classification, like we were saying about the writer, is useful in some perspectives because it gives you a loose framework of what to expect in separate subgenres. Because each band, you listen to Death, Gore, Guts, Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, you're gonna see a common thread in elements that would link them all to a certain subgenre. The same way you listen to Emperor, Dimmu Borgir and whatever symphonic black metal bands, okay, these bands are symphonic and they have black metal elements. And it's useful in that regard, but I think the thing that's become ridiculous is the fact that it's like we're talking about the snowball effect. Like, with every time music develops, that creates another 10 subgenres.
Yeah.
To the point where you've got post-black metal and you've got un-black metal, which is Christian black metal.
There's a genre called rape gaze. I shit you not.
What?
Yeah.
Rape gaze?
Yeah. I don't know if it's still there, but it was there about 5 years ago. Yeah.
Do you know what that's about though?
No.
It was that came out of I think it was originally called Witch House, and there was a journalist there was a band, I can't remember what they're...
Were they from Salem?
Salem.
Yeah,
there was a band Salem.
It was based in Salem.
Huh?
Or was the band
No, there
called
was the
Salem?
band, I think the band were called Salem.
Okay,
and I only know about this because I used to read that website Hipster Runoff loads, and they used to joke about it loads. They're really funny. It was like a satirical website about being like a hipster, I guess, before they were hipsters, whatever. But this band Salem, the singer, like in all the promo pictures, he always had this kind of slack-jawed look, and he'd be like that. So a journalist coined the term rape gaze because they had shoegazy elements in their music, and he was taking the piss out of the singer.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought I'd just...
That's what that is.
Yeah, it's not actually about, it's a joke about the singer of Salem having a weird look.
That's so not a 2020 thing.
No, yeah. But that's where that comes from. Anyway.
Don't I laugh so heartily at that? But it reminds me of another pet peeve I have is when fucking lyrical content is then turned into a subgenre of metal that is the same as another one. Give you an example, like fucking Viking metal, pirate metal. What the fuck is Viking and pirate metal? Like it's just either melodic death metal or folk metal.
I guess some Vikings would have been perceived as pirates, even though piracy and Vikings didn't exist, I think, at the same time.
They didn't exist at the same time.
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay.
I think Vikings were around in the 1500s, and then pirates were more like, 1700s?
Yeah, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, pirate academics. Viking academics.
But it's just, I just think it's stupid because of the fact that you've got lyrical content and then that somehow dictates that that's a separate subgenre. Like, that's an example.
Porno grind, though.
Sorry?
What about porno grind? What think I got you?
Porno grind and gore grind is just, and this is
That's
another...
definitely, it's the lyrical thing, right? Porno grind. Because
Yeah, it's like that thing. Not all death metal has gore lyrics. Not all black metal has satanic lyrics.
Yeah.
And porno grind is something that I think is just a real bastard stepchild of the scene.
Quite literally.
And it's funny because you look at gore grind and porno grind, and this is something that really actually peeves me off more than it should do. Is that often gets misconstrued as what grindcore is.
Yeah.
People think most people think of grindcore, they think of something that's just really stupid and fast-paced and has no structure. Whereas the truth of grindcore is when you listen to all the classic grindcore bands, whether it be Napalm Death, obviously, Nazem, Pig Destroyer, Assuck, they're all bands that have real strong roots, similar to Converge and the political scene, the hardcore punk scene. And they've got real crust elements, deep beat elements, and it's quite musical. And they're often talking about political topics. And I feel like there's a lot of worth in grindcore as a genre that is just not recognised because most people think it's just exactly the same as gore grind and porno grind. So
what genre is fuckpig?
The fuckpig are probably closer to actual grindcore.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
I don't want to say it in case it sounded like a stupid person.
Yeah, no, they're definitely because I think what's his name from Anal Nathrak, Dave Hunt provides vocals for a lot of the fuckpig stuff.
I didn't know
I'm
that.
quite tight with him, yeah.
I like the artwork. It's weird
Yeah.
and dark. Yeah.
And I love Anal Nathrak as well. or anal Nathrax, I used to pronounce it back in the days, but they do a real good job of blending like grindcore, industrial, and black metal. In my opinion, I think they're quite a good, they're quite a seminal band for the extreme underground scene, and they're from the UK as well. It's just crazy how many influential UK bands there are. I mean, we've really spawned every facet of popular and heavy music.
Whenever I hear the word anal Nathrax, I can hear the snare drum. I can hear that way. Like, I can just hear it. It's like someone's thrown a ping pong ball and it's like rattling.
Yeah, that's a problem with a lot of death metal, I think, and a lot of really fast-paced drums. They're just too clicky, too processed. Just sounds like someone typing furiously on a
It's like a cartoon sound.
Like a typewriter.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Froglord.
What would you rate it?
Oh God, I'll go for a solid 6.5.
I was gonna rate it a 6. I think it's not like. I'm so sorry, Froglord, I fucking love you, but I don't think it's a genre-defining turning point kind of album.
It's fun music, it's a great EP, and it does the music well. But it's an EP, you know. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Froglord is thinking about creating an amazing piece of music or a second full-length album at some point, which is going to blow everybody's mind. So.
Indeed, it's going to be an amphibian. Absolute. I can't make a fun pun with amphibian. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some frog-esque pun in my head, but I've got nothing.
No, nothing.
And it's for a good cause as well. You know, it's for charity, which is good. That. You know, that's got to be. You know, you don't see that too often in the metal scene, really. So I think that's something that should be praised.
I mean, if every single album release was some like kind of crazy genre mind-blowing moment, it would be tiring as fuck to listen to metal.
I know your brain would just be mush. Like just nothing would ever sound good ever again.
Yeah, basically. I mean, yeah. So that's the weekly review.
I think so. I think that covers it.
That covers it. Thank you so much, Froglord, Obscure Sphinx, and Converge. You make bloody lovely music. And thank you for watching. If you made it this far, feel free to subscribe and like and follow. And we also do our card reading tarot episodes, so feel free to check those out. We've got more coming. Thank you so much.
Feel free. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Feel free to submit any demos or any music you'd like us to check out, because we would be more than happy to review it.
We love reviews, so send us your music, send us your stuff. We will listen to it. Thank you.
Take care.